We're live from London, Paris to Tokyo, America, Scotland, Canada to Mexico. I believe in Joe Hendry, and so does NXT. You're damn right. That was awesome. What a night on NXT. Some crazy crossover stuff. And I mean, oh my God, like it's an insane time in wrestling that you could see wrestlers from another company, like another major North American promotion, go on another company's show and have their performer go over in the main event of that show. Like that is just insane. Like I said on Sunday night after NXT Heatwave, Joe Hendry was the last shot of that show, which shows you WWE clearly sees something in him. They're paying attention to the social media following and whatnot. And like you look at just all of the stuff that has gone into this. Like he had the minor appearance in that battle royal and everybody went crazy. He's like, oh, Joe Hendry's getting screwed over. No, he's not. And it's like he gets called in off the bench really in storyline to fill in and be Trick Williams' partner against Ethan Page and Shawn Spears. The babyfaces win. As I said, Joe Hendry gets the pin. This is a big deal. And I said it Sunday night. This could be the start of a massive month for Joe Hendry because this guy is as over as any talent in wrestling because of his song, because of his charisma, and because of the way he just performs and engages the audience. It's gotten to the point where he's in a 6-way elimination match at one of TNA's biggest shows of the year at the end of this month. He could theoretically be the world champion of TNA wrestling by the end of this month. And he just main evented an NXT show. Like, that is bananas. Bananas. And if you remember, back in 2021, when Don Callis was on his way out of, this was late 2020 into early 2021, when Kenny Omega won the AEW championship. And then there was like this crossover thing with TNA. That was Kenny going through his belt collector gimmick. And initially when that happened, the shock of it was like, holy crap, this is actually really big time. And it benefited TNA in no way possible. AEW benefited none of it either way because what happened, Kenny Omega won the Impact World Championship, trotted it around, beat up a couple of TNA guys, and then proceeded to lose it to Christian Cage, who then just dropped it to Josh Alexander. And it felt really insignificant, at least on the part of both things. It could have felt way, way bigger if they would have like incorporated more stuff across shows. It was just really the Good Brothers came over. There wasn't really much else going on in terms of that partnership with TNA wrestling. It's like, yeah, you had a couple of guys, like you had Rich Swann and you had some of these other guys, compete for the championship, but they were never going to beat Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega was in his belt collector stage and you knew none of that was going to happen. I mean, yeah, WWE brought in Jordynne Grace to face Roxanne Perez at Battleground a couple months ago. And they found a way to get out of that match where Jordynne Grace wasn't going to look, too terribly like defeated or like it was going to keep her looking strong. So there's been ways to go about this. And I think WWE and TNA have been respectful to each other. You've been seeing passing people back and forth. Charlie Dempsey showed up in TNA. Izzy Dame has shown up in TNA. Tatum Paxley showed up in TNA. And then you've obviously got Joe Hendry coming over. And then there was another big shocker that happened that I actually called over the weekend about Wes Lee that I'll talk about later on this show. But this is, this is an insane time in wrestling because everybody wants to talk about the Forbidden Door. And what is the Forbidden Door? And the AEW cracked open the Forbidden Door and all this other thing. And you think about how that show was a big selling and a marketing thing for AEW a couple weeks ago. And you're seeing things on WWE television that you would never have seen 25 years ago, not, let alone even 5 years ago. Like a TNA wrestler getting a pin in the main event of a WWE show, whether it's NXT or anything else, I don't care. That is a big deal. That would never happen under Vince McMahon because Vince McMahon was so stringent about saying that he was the singular thing. And this is a big time deal because Triple H is embracing this conglomeration or just coming together and like collaborating with companies. And obviously they're not going to do it with AEW because AEW, there's so much bad blood between these two companies, whether it be some of the talent that have left and crossed over to different sides. It's just not going to happen. But the fact that WWE has been willing to embrace this, at least even on just an NXT level, is crazy. And it shows you the faith they have in Joe Hendry. It shows like the enormous reaction he got. He's over. And I think it's lightning in the bottle for WWE because there wasn't a guy as charismatic and as much of a lightning rod and just as much of a guy who ignited a fan base as much as Joe Hendry has. There was nobody around for AEW when that happened. And maybe it was because it was coming out of COVID, maybe because they didn't really have a real plan going into the partnership or whatever was going on, because Don Callis was really leaving his position in Impact to go to AEW. So, but nonetheless, it's a very significant night for NXT and for WWE because, hey, man, you have that, and then you have the whole thing with Wes Lee. Like I said, I'll talk about that a little bit further down the line. Run down the card here. A lot of short matches on this show, which not necessarily to my liking. First one was Ariana Grace versus Carmen Petrovic. Like these are interesting characters, and I like Ariana Grace a lot. That's honestly, there should be a TNA crossover there at some point. For those who don't know, Ariana Grace is Santino Marella's daughter. So that's a noteworthy thing that maybe to keep in mind as we go forward with this partnership. This was a really short match. Before you blink an eye, Carmen Petrovic hits a kick, and it's over. I actually like the Ariana Grace character being the beauty pageant queen. It's an interesting thing that she does, and she's very entertaining, and I can see where she gets her charisma from her dad, who's honestly one of the funniest people on the roster from the WWE days, and then obviously he's been still doing some good stuff over in TNA as an authority figure. So after the match, it was before the end of the match, Jasmine Nix and JC Jane were seen watching the match. Fallon Henley comes up, beats up Carmen Petrovic. Looks like they're forming a team that's sort of set up later in the show. One of the other big angles that was kind of sort of paid off a little bit here is this Brooks Jensen angle that's been going on, where he's just been like, been being held off of shows. He's been tweeting like saying, why am I not being booked? It was like kind of blurring the lines of this. So he has this like, meeting with Ava, and Ava basically says, hey, we were going to fire you, but we decided not to. And a couple of people vouch for you. And just so you know, you're sticking around, but conduct yourself like a WWE superstar. So sort of like sets the stage for what really was going on throughout the night. Actually, I'll peel back a little bit because there was the opening promo of this show that really set the stage for the whole night. I talked about a couple of these matches early on, but really the opening promo was Ethan Page, the NXT champion. Still just an insane finish to that match. Obviously a lot of people were going to talk about the Joe Hendry graphic at the end of the show, but we need to recognize that one of the great young talents, like he's been around the business for so long. He's 34 years old, still got a world in front of him. He is an immensely talented guy. One thing I've gotten driven crazy about in the last 2 days is people just trying to discredit what Ethan Page is or how good he is. He was not used properly. He was a victim of Tony Khan just buying off every free agent wrestler that he could. And he got stuck in a tag team with Scorpio Sky. He got stuck in a stable in the Firm backing up MJF, or I guess he was backing up MJF. Then he's with the Hardys. Then he's on Ring of Honor. Then he can't get booked. Then he has a random match for the world title against MJF. And then he faces Kenny Omega. And then he basically just disappears. And then he was gone. And then he shows up on NXT. 6 weeks in, he's the champion. And you could say what you want about how it was booked. It looked like a fluke, but still, he's the champion. He's the champion, and he's playing the heel stuff really well. He's really good on the mic. He's really talented in the ring. Stop trying to discredit that. So he cuts a promo, basically. What was really impressive to me, I mean, the fans just kept yakking through this whole promo, and Ethan Page did not even flinch. That's a professional right there. So he knew what he was doing. And throughout this, he actually came out with security. Oro Mensah, who has been trying to get after him for weeks, ever since it was revealed that he was the attacker of Noam Dar, who's now out. So Oro Mensah gets escorted out. Trick Williams comes out. He basically wants a rematch. He doesn't get it. Sean Spears comes out. He starts running his mouth saying, "Hey, we need to teach you a lesson. Like you're not learning." And then out comes Javon Evans. They get into this brawl. It's the baby faces stand tall, and it leads to us getting the tag match. And now we go back down the line. Like I said, you had the Ariana Grace match that I already talked about, and then Brooks Jensen, Ava. That meeting sort of sets the stage for what was going on later on in the night. Then we get Lexis King and Tony D'Angelo for the Heritage Cup. Both guys got a fall in this match using a finisher. And then in the fourth round of this Heritage Cup, Tony D'Angelo hits his big spine buster for a 1-2-3. He wins 2 decisions to 1. During this match, Eddie Thorpe, who's back in the fold, he's an interesting guy. He's DJing the whole thing, which was kind of distracting Lexis King. I like that they played up the fact that Lexis King, nobody likes him and nobody was in his corner. That was a neat little story to this thing, because usually in the Heritage Cup, it's like a boxing match. You have cornermen. So that was kind of a neat little deal there. I think they're playing into something with Lexis and Eddie Thorpe going forward. Lexis King, I mean, even though he loses a bunch, but he's got a character. The former Brian Pillman Jr. From AEW, another fumble, and he's kind of found his niche here. I mean, yeah, some of these guys, they're not going to all be world champion, and that's what people need to realize. Okay, just because you're not winning a world title or you're in the picture or something like that, at least Lexis King is getting TV time every single week, because his character is obnoxious. They're playing up the angle that the idea that nobody likes him, and this worked. It was fine for what it was. Didn't really last too terribly long, but like I said, a lot of short matches. Coming out of this, Vic Joseph, who I think does a fabulous job, Cleveland's finest, just yells saying, "Oh, we got to get a camera to the back," and they get to the back, and Brooks Jensen is attacking Javon Evans. Out comes his former partner Josh Briggs to basically say, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? I vouched for you. You're screwing this up." And it's that was the way that they're going forward with this. It's interesting because, like I said, this was a whole show long angle throughout the night that played out really well. Then you get Gallus facing off against Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe. Good enough match. Like, the Igwe and DuPont are impressive for big guys. They move really effectively. Particularly Igwe is really impressive. He's a big dude. There's a lot of athleticism there. You can see the raw ability. But Gallus gets the win here. Not surprising. They've been trying to build them back up. Former tag team champions in their own right. And then we get to the other big story of the night, which is Wesley comes out to cut a promo, and he's getting ready to quit. And this is as I fully expected. I mean, I didn't expect it to transpire kind of really like this immediately. I figured maybe they play it up a little bit, but out the old MSK music, and out comes Zachary Wentz, the former Nash Carter, and Trey Miguel from TNA, and they persuade him not to retire. Hey, let's run roughshod. Let's reunite MSK. Let's reunite the Rascalz in a beautiful, beautiful moment, because these three guys really loved each other. They split up at some point during the pandemic. Nash or Wentz and West went to NXT and ended up ultimately winning the championships there. Trey Miguel stayed behind and made up his own thing. He ended up being an X Division champion and doing a lot of great things over in TNA. These guys were split up for a while, and I thought that coming out of that and seeing that promo, that the natural progression, I honestly thought that they were going to maybe play this up and go to TNA with it, and Wes would show up there, and maybe he would quit and go to TNA. But that didn't happen. They're gonna obviously do this on NXT television. They set up something later in the show where they're gonna have a match next week. So very cool, very, very cool to see. And even Swerve Strickland, who knew Nash and Wes from his time when he was still Isaiah Swerve Scott back in the old days of NXT 2.0. But yeah, the MSK was really like a tag team, like in the hybrid model of when NXT Black and Gold was going to 2.0 and then transitioned out. And it says a lot about all three of these guys have been able to make careers for themselves. Obviously, there was some controversy surrounding Zach Wentz and him leaving and him getting fired, but he made a career for himself back over at TNA. As I said, Trey Miguel won the X Division title, and Wes Lee became the longest reigning North American champion in the history of NXT. And there's some dudes who've held that title. Adam Cole's held that title. Ricochet's held that title. Johnny Gargano's held that title. Damian Priest has held that title. Like, there's a lot of dudes who have held that title. So for Wes Lee to build up that career, and I like I said, there's not a whole hell of a lot for him to really do with the existing roster. So bringing over his former tag team partners, using this partnership to your advantage, really, really neat. And like I said, something you would never see even 5 years ago in WWE. WWE wouldn't even think to do something like this. So that's insane. So then we get Izzy Dame and Thea Hale. This was set up. Ridge Holland ended up setting up some stuff, trying to get in the good graces of Chase U. He's trying to groom Thea to potentially be in the women's championship picture. No Roxanne Perez on this show, which was interesting after her big title win. But maybe they jammed a lot of stuff because, like I said, a lot of short matches, a lot of going from segment to segment. But these were things that were effective and moved the thing along. Thea Hale gets the win here with her Kimura submission. There were some distractions going on. I guess Tatum Paxley, who's still kind of going with her obsession gimmick, is kind of obsessed with Izzy Dame. So that's kind of interesting. It's a weird character, maybe not for me. Like, she had the whole thing with Lyra. So it's a weird gimmick, but like I said, they've got to have different elements of characters across a 2-hour show. Off of this match, so the other bit of significant news that Ridge Holland did, he got a match for Duke Hudson, who was really an MVP in that tag team match on Sunday at Heatwave. So he gets a match against Obafemi for the North American title. Oba cuts his promo, basically sort of threatening him. Duke stood up for himself pretty well here. Like, he seemed intimidated when he got announced for that match, but like, he held his own pretty well here. So that match is set for next week. I got to tell you guys, Obafemi is freaking impressive. This guy is freaking impressive. I mean, he's literally been in the game for like probably 2 years. 26 years old. Was like I think he was a shot put guy, I think, or did track and field or something, like a javelin. I don't know what he did, but he's a big dude. And this guy is straight out of Alabama a few years ago, out of school. And this is the prime example of what NXT is looking for. Raw athletic dudes or ladies that have the ability and show raw potential. And some of them are naturally gifted on the mic. And you just see it through a lot of these faces. I wish I could run down a list of all of the talent that they have in NXT, or even some on the main roster that are under 30 years, that are 30 years or younger. Like, I mean, Tiffany Stratton's already up in the main roster and she's in her mid 20s. Obafemi's 26. Trick Williams isn't even 30 yet. Like, these big names. And then even somebody you bring in from AEW and from past lines of work on the wrestling scene in Ethan Page, he's 34. Yeah, Sean Spears is up there in age, but you get a veteran there. That makes it effective. You got Javon Evans, who's 20. Hey, NXT, I'll say it again, they've got it right. Everybody was critical when they went to, like, this model of, like, trying to groom new talent. This is what NXT needed to be. Like, I think, yes, the old NXT kind of spawned what AEW is. And like a lot of indie style matches, some good semblance of storytelling throughout. But a lot of that is because Triple H is a good enough booker where he can, keep these continuity with these matches to these storylines. And, it's just like, you see it in AEW. It's just like, there's a lot of stuff that's just not clicking. By the way, spoiler alert, at the little bit later, Collision's ratings came out. I have a take about Collision that I need to get off my chest. Also, there was a weird segment announced from Mercedes Moné, so that'll happen in a little bit here. So yeah, Obafemi is just great. So I don't know who the hell is going to take that title off of him. But they better have a damn good reason, because that guy is freaking fantastic. And if they were ever to do Gunther Obafemi, I think that might feed generations like that, because that is a Big E special with guys just beating the living crap out of each other. Big meaty men slapping meat. So after the Obafemi promo, we cut to the back. It's the Rascalz joyfully being back together. They're confronted by Gallus. They basically have a stare down. They start talking to each other, and it leads to a 6-man tag next week. So yes, the Rascalz, with 2 guys from TNA not contracted to WWE, are going to be on NXT next week. Like, come on. Then Ava has a backstage segment with Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen, basically saying, "What are you doing? I just gave you a free ride back into the company. What are you doing? You're just screwing it up. You're screwing up our main event." And Briggs is pissed off because he vouched for him. It's basically announced if Javon Evans is healthy, Brooks Jensen is facing him as a result of the attack. Josh Briggs for helping take care of this whole situation, but Brooks wants Sean Spears. Ava doesn't want him getting involved in the match tonight, so Briggs agrees, and they move on. OTM Good Brothers. This was a fine tag team match. OTM's an interesting group. I think really the real drawing power of this group is Jada Parker, because you can just see the ability of her in her raw potential in the ring. She's got the look. She's very confident on the mic, and she's really kind of carried this group. Prince and Nima, they're fine. But they get a win here over the Good Brothers, which is saying a lot. The Good Brothers put them over. So clearly they might be setting up OTM potentially to go after Frazier and Axiom next in terms of the tag team division. Then we get Fallon Henley basically degrading Sol Ruca, because Fallon apparently hates rookies, which I find ironic with how all this set up. Jasmine Nix is technically a rookie, so that didn't make a ton of sense to me, but okay, we're nitpicking here. But Sol Ruca is so cool. She's got this like calmness about her, and just the way she performs in this effortlessness that she performs in the ring and on the mic, and it comes across really naturally. Like this whole gimmick of her being like this hang loose surfer girl really clicks. And I think a lot of people, obviously her athletic ability in the ring really sells it. But like I said, even in a simple promo like this, where she's confidently just like saying, "Hey, you know, I don't know what her problem is with me. She like, I don't get it." And just, you know, saying, "Hey, I lost on Sunday. But I'll get back, and the result will be different." But it came across really natural. And I think she's a star. She's absolutely a star. You saw on Sunday in that match with Kalani Jordan that like these are two, like the women's division just is, like I listed off like about 3 women in the last like 2 minutes, and we're not even talking about the champ. We're not even talking about the champion of the women's division, the main champion, Roxanne Perez, who wasn't even on this show. So that's crazy to think about. Like the level of talent in the pipeline in WWE, specifically in the women's side, is just bananas. Like you look, and I've said this before, there's a reason why Sasha Banks did not re-sign with WWE, and I think it was entirely a WWE decision. If Sasha Banks wanted to be in WWE, she would have signed. She wanted more money. WWE didn't want to give it to her, because WWE has people in their system like a Tiffany Stratton, who's already on the main roster, like a Sol Ruca, Fallon Henley, Lyra Valkyria, all these people that I could continue, Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, who's hurt. I could keep going, but they have all these women in the pipeline that are growing really fast and are able to get to the main. Kiana James has barely been seen on the main roster. She got called up because there's nowhere for her to go. She's kind of stuck in the middle. That's how much talent there is in WWE. That's why. So bringing back Sasha Banks wasn't going to do them anything. So Mercedes Moné exists over in AEW because, like I said, she wanted more money. Credit to her. She wanted an opportunity to prove herself. WWE wasn't going to give it to her, so she moved on. Then we get to a really weird segment. Bad things happen when you are in the NXT Performance Center parking lot. Because for those who didn't know, Damon Kemp is no longer with WWE. His contract expired. So they did an angle where Charlie Dempsey and Tavion Heights and Miles Bourne, the No Quarter Catch crew, are seen like looking at an open truck and saying there are consequences for your actions, and it's almost like they're staging like a murder. They've done this and I don't know what Shawn Michaels' thing is. Like they did this a lot with the family and Tony D'Angelo. We've got to stop doing like this over the top, like off screen, like low level murder type stuff on NXT television. It's weird. It's really weird. And then they look over and Ren Sinclair is looking on in the parking lot. She's saying, I didn't see anything. And they walk away and they drive away in their car. And that's the end of the segment. Fallon and Soul is a fine match for what it was. Fallon Henley, Sol Ruca, which was set up with that promo. Soul hits a lot of cool stuff off the ropes in this thing. She gets her Soul Snatcher finisher, which is one of the best finishers in the business, out of nowhere. And immediately in comes JC Jane and Jasmine Nix to throw it out for a DQ. And they beat down Sol Ruca. It seems like they're aligned together. Like I said, it's still weird because the whole thing with Fallon Henley and her heel turn is she's tired of rookies taking away her opportunities. And yet Jasmine Nix is like actually a rookie. And just because she's associated with JC Jane, okay. So it's a little weird, but like I said, I do like that there's a lot of separate storylines involving women. Because like I said, you just don't see that on very many other shows across any form of professional wrestling. There's a couple of women's matches here and there, a couple of women's feuds streamlining through shows. There's a lot going on for the women on NXT. So if you're into women's wrestling, NXT is the place where you really want to tune into, like, because there's a lot of, and like I said, the future pipeline is just insane. Backstage segment, Ava is meeting with Cedric Alexander, Stevie Turner, who's like her and Robert Stone are like lobbying to be her assistant. So Cedric Alexander, I guess, is going to be in NXT. Robert Stone brings in Ashanti the Adonis. This is interesting because they had been hyping them up on SmackDown for what seems like forever as a tag team. And I guess now they're being brought in separately. But I'm glad at least these guys have something to do because Cedric Alexander is way too freaking talented to not be anywhere on WWE television. Like, he is way too good. And he's been way too good for far too long to just be this forgotten. So I think him going back to NXT is actually a really nice move. And I think they could actually do something nice with him. We'll see if him and Ashanti actually become a team. Because a lot of plans clearly changed. Because I think there was something brewing for New Catch Republic. Because they went down to NXT and then it was announced today, Tyler Bate tore his pec. So he's out for a long time. So they brought Pete Dunne back up. He's doing stuff with Sheamus on the main roster. Maybe they start building that team that we saw in those vignettes on the main roster with Ashanti the Adonis and Cedric Alexander. They start doing it here. But that was a neat little setup. Like I said, main event. Really, like, Joe Hendry being out there was the story. Just like I said, it's just everything about this guy is just, it's great. It's just like, it's the perfect type of character that'll work in WWE. Wrestling ability's fine, but he's over, and so who cares? Like, if you have a personality, you're able to sell your gimmick or whatever goes with you, you're going to be fine. And that was really the point of this. Ethan Page was trying to get into the match towards the end, and Shawn Spears was trying to pull Shawn Spears towards his corner. Then Oro Mensah comes in. They brawl all the way. He chases him all the way out of the Performance Center. So basically it's 2-on-1. And Shawn Spears is trying to fight away on the outside. Trick hits the trick shot outside, throws Spears back in. The standing ovation from Joe Hendry gets the win. The show ends with Joe Hendry's music playing and him getting a pin. A TNA wrestler. I said this on my social media, by the way. I said this. There were two former AEW guys, a TNA guy with one of WWE's top prospects in Trick Williams. That is a horrible look for AEW. It's a horrible look. because you had the partnership there. I actually saw earlier today that apparently Javon Evans, when he was under his old name, Jay Malachi, did some dark matches over in AEW and was putting over Jeff Jarrett and Satnam Singh. What? And people were trying to say, oh, you're an idiot for just, it's like, okay, so Javon Evans, like, and there's some internet personalities, they know who they are criticizing Javon Evans taking a bunch of pins. I was like, he's 20 years old and it's at least advancing a storyline. What purpose does Javon Evans, even at 19 or whatever, and when he was kind of a relative no-name, get from putting over Jeff Jarrett or Satnam Singh? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, but anyway, like I said, it's a bad look for AEW when the main event of NXT television is two former AEW guys, a TNA guy, along with your former NXT champion, who's one of the top prospects in the WWE Performance Center system, and Trick Williams. So just a bad look for AEW. Good segue. Speaking of bad news for AEW, did you guys see the Collision ratings for this Saturday? Oh boy. Have I got to tell you, they're not good. And I understand that there were some circumstances involved with Money in the Bank going on at the exact same time. Actually, Money in the Bank had already started and been on for an hour at that point. But 306,000 viewers. By the way, 3,000 less viewers than Rampage. Rampage is on at 10 Eastern on a Friday night. And don't dare tell me, don't you dare try to tell me, oh, it's just a 1 week thing. You want to know what Collision did the week before? 422,000. Here's my take about Collision. This show needs to go. It's a bad idea. Or move dates. Do something. But this can't be on Saturday anymore. It's a bad idea. You've got college football coming back in like a little bit over a month, like end of August, early September we're looking at. It doesn't rate well. And then on top of it, on some cases when there's a North American, like when it's in North America, like it was in Canada, but a lot of these, they've gotten a break really with a lot of these international shows that WWE's been putting on. But when there is a North American premium live event, and there's going to be one coming up early August, it's going to be SummerSlam, they're going to get killed in the ratings again. So what are we doing? Like, the show was put together because of CM Punk. They have been trying to continue to trot this out as this, secondary show, but nobody watches it. There's points that are put on that show that people don't even realize what the hell is going on. And some of those matches, even on that show, don't even translate to anything of meaning. And then the plot points that you put out on there, nobody watches it because you don't give them a reason to watch the show. It's been a bad thing to keep this thing going. And what did you expect was going to happen? You threw MJF out there. You threw MJF out there to start the show, and it didn't do anything. It didn't do anything to cut his heel promo to try and do that. You had Hangman Page and Jay White in the main event, which was a great match. But again, nobody's watching that over Money in the Bank. Nobody is. I'm just telling you what I know. You have to be like a true geek or nerd to be watching Collision. There's nothing about it that really makes it stand out. Occasionally there'll be a good match, a banger on the show, but it's like, what storyline plot points are carrying from there to Dynamite? There's not a whole lot. Like, they got a convenient break with this Hangman thing and the Owen being tied into it, and obviously MJF explaining himself, which I thought was a really good idea to use that as a branch off to potentially, but it didn't lead to anything. So either end the show or move dates. Find a way to put it on a different night, because you're not doing yourself any favors when, like I said, you're going from 422,000 to 306. Like, you're not gaining much back. So I don't understand why they continue to just make us believe that this is actually going to be a long-term thing. And it's only caused a bunch of problems. Like CM Punk and the whole Jack Perry thing stemmed off of Collision. It's just like it just feels like it's there. So either end it or move days, because it's only going to get worse before it gets better. And then one last thing here before I go. Congratulations to Joe Tessitore, the newest employee of WWE, longtime ESPN announcer. He's been on Holy Moly. He's done boxing commentary. This guy's great. He's always been great, very excitable, very energetic, and above all else is a WWE fan. And that's why I initially liked Jimmy Smith, and I mean I think Adnan Virk is a good enough guy, but it didn't work. He's not a play-by-play guy. Kevin Patrick, nice enough guy, seemed relatable to work through, but it just didn't work. He's not a play-by-play guy again. Obviously, Jonathan Coachman, a lot of people come up with this because he branched over from the ESPN platform. Listen, Coach was kind of thrust into the business. The difference here with Tessitore is, like I said, he was at WrestleMania. This guy on his Instagram has impersonated Roman Reigns. This guy enjoys the product. He's a fan of the product. I'm not surprised. I know a lot of people who know him very well. And I've only heard exemplary things about this guy. And I love his work. I love what he's done on college football, Monday Night Football, boxing. And like I said, even on something as hilarious as Holy Moly, he worked with Rob Riggle. So I think this is a good hire. It sounds like he's going to work with Corey Graves and Wade Barrett on SmackDown. I'm sad for Graves because I thought Graves was doing a really good job in this new role of being the lead play-by-play guy, but obviously they saw an opportunity to bring in a big-time broadcaster like a Joe Tessitore and see if he can, round it in. Like they've been spiraling to truly try and find that second commentator behind Michael Cole since they fired Tom Phillips. And Tom Phillips has gone, speaking of TNA, he's gone on to be the lead voiceover in TNA with Matt Rainwalt, the former Aiden English, another WWE TNA tie-in. But yeah, they've been trying to really land who this second lead commentator was going to be. Like I said, I've listed off all the names that they've tried since they got rid of Tom Phillips. They tried Adnan Virk. They tried Jimmy Smith. They tried Kevin Patrick. They're trying Corey Graves. And now they're going to go to Joe Tessitore. So like I said, I'm optimistic that this is going to work out because above all else, the difference that he has from the other guys that have been hired by WWE in recent years is that he enjoys and knows the product. So, and that's a big thing. That's more of a thing than people realize, even in WWE, where a lot of these people come in with limited or no, like some of the talent that comes in through the pipeline have limited to no knowledge about WWE. It's important when the people who are calling these matches actually know what the hell they're talking about. But I mean, you've seen like people from Jackie Redmond's a hockey reporter, comes in and she's doing a really great job in terms of being like a backstage reporter and whatnot. So yeah, so like I said, I'm really optimistic and really excited to see where this thing goes. Dynamite's tomorrow night. I'll be reacting to it here. Like I said, I've been saying it for the last couple days and doing the show. What happens in that Hangman Danielson match? Because the ripple effects of that match is really going to shape up what the hell happens with this card at All In Wembley Stadium. There's a weird segment that was announced. There's I guess there's a toast for Mercedes Moné, a championship toast. I was like, wait, didn't she have a championship celebration last week? It's weird. I don't like what they're doing. I understand it's a heel thing. I don't like the way that they're booking her. They don't need to keep putting her in these promo segments. That's not her strong suit, okay? You can build these occasionally. Maybe Britt Baker gets involved and maybe they have another back and forth. But again, Britt Baker outshined Mercedes in that promo last week. So we'll see where that is. Oh, and another thing, and I got to give credit to Bully Ray for this before I go. I got to clown on AEW here for a second. So Bully Ray pointed this out. Initial graphic comes out where it announces, list all of the champions, and it has their head, how they have a graphic where they will show all the champions and say, okay, or not all the champions. So basically show all the matches that are on the show and even list their title. So like Chris Jericho, FTW champion. Oh, we'll hear from the international champion, Will Ospreay. And then basically there's a graphic for Swerve Strickland and it says, Swerve Strickland returns. And Bully Ray pointed out saying, hey, it would be nice if you called him the AEW World Champion. Again, maybe this is just a social media goof, but this is a microcosm of just the short-sightedness of this company sometimes. Treat Swerve Strickland like the champion that he is. Don't make stupid mistakes like that. That's on Tony Khan, because he's always on Twitter. And so clearly he saw that Bully Ray clowned him and basically said, hey, you should do that. And a day later they fixed it. But still, that's stupid. That is stupid stuff. Okay. Again, it's also a microcosm pay. You shouldn't be paying attention to the internet crowd. But at the same time, that is such an egregious mistake that you just, I wasn't going to let it go here on this show. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at OT Mike Wrestling. And OT Mike Wrestling is the Twitter handle. Me at Off the Mic 28. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. We'll love you forever and ever and ever. And I will talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.